This is Joe Smith from the Midwest Football Podcast. Please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It all helps us grow our show. Look for our full show, too, anywhere you find podcasts. Links below.
It'll be interesting to see how these guys fit into cores, because you look at, we talked a little bit last week about Cleveland and how they're building a core of receivers that are good at different things. You've got the classic, stud receiver in Amari Cooper, who's best at those sort of intermediate, route runner type routes, but he's got the physical tools that he can go deep. You've got Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's a pure deep threat, and which means if that's all he does, he'll never be a big target guy. But what he does is more important on the football field than on the fantasy sports. You've got a true slot receiver now, which might do a lot of catch and run, might do a lot of contested catch, might do the occasional intermediate. You've got to cover all three levels of the defense against Cleveland, and that's going to help out Deshaun Watson and the running game a ton.
And on a similar note, I think you got a really good and interesting rounded out class for Detroit because, we talked about Sun God and how good he is at running intermediate and short routes, and he's a route technician. And I love the Jameson Williams pick from them last year to complement his set, because worst case scenario, Jameson Williams can fly. And he is going to stretch the defense. He's going to blow the safeties off the top, and he's going to give St. Brown more room to work in the intermediate routes. Best case scenario, he's just the best player receiver in the draft, and he can run every route. And now you just got two really good guys. And what's interesting is the Cleveland and Detroit might be targeting a completely different type of receiver in this year's draft.
Yeah, Jameson Williams, if he does, as long as he's got any hands at all, he can be a catch and run guy and a deep threat guy. Great. Both. If he can also run routes, look out, because he might be Tyreek Hill or possibly better.
Yep.
He's got those kinds of tool set, and that's why you get guys, the secondary support receivers are guys like Josh Reynolds, who is that intermediate guy with the speed to go deep. That's exactly the kind of third receiver they want. It's also why they could move on from TJ Hawkinson, because he was a slot type, catch type tight end who's going to do the contested catches in the short and some of the intermediate stuff as a secondary. What does he give you that you don't already get from Amon-Ra St. Brown?
And what I like about that receiver core is you don't have a traditional X that everybody wants, but it's still effective. And I think that's why in this year's class, they can wait on the receivers, because you can get someone like a Cedric Wilson in the middle rounds, who's quote unquote size wise is a traditional X, but maybe not talent wise, but he can come in as the third receiver. You kick St. Brown into the slot where he can just terrorize this, nickelbacks and linebackers, but still hold his own on the outside. You can get guys like that. You don't have to swing for the DeAndre Hopkins, although you could also just trade for him. Apparently he's on the block.